Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle book review of Hidden Hands, The Lives of Manuscripts and Their Makers. And this is by Mary Wellesley. And the book is from Riverrun. The book came out in 2021, 370 pages. It's hardback. I think there's a paperback available, or soon. I'm not certain if it's available as yet, but certainly the hardback. It's only fairly recently I bought it, but it obviously probably been out earlier. Saw a review about it. I think it was in the Times. I thought, yes. I always hate looking at Times reviews because you suddenly think, oh, I must go and get that one. But there's the lives of manuscripts and their makers, and you've got the contents. So there's the content. You can see the sort of thing it is, discoveries, near disasters, etc. And it runs through a whole range of different things, covers, well, obviously mostly medieval and a little bit earlier as well. Got lots and lots of illustrations, which is great. And then you've got the introduction. So you've got a little introduction there. And straight away goes into talking about medieval manuscripts, 800, 900, 1100s, whatever. It goes for a whole variety of different ones. And you've, of course, got lots of little archives, the British Library and many other places, of course, where all these books, all scattered all over the place. But, of course, one of the great things nowadays is you can go on quite a lot of the websites of all these various things, and you can actually look at the books and go through them yourself. You can actually go through, of course, before that, you couldn't. Unless you were a scholar, you could go there, look through these books. Now you can actually look at some, obviously it's all in Latin. And I have no idea what I'm reading, but it still looks amazing. You can see, obviously, all the illustrations. They're quite fascinating just looking at them. And obviously, I read the Latin perfectly. Not. Anyway, you've got here all about sort of the manuscripts, all the way, the approaches, how it's created, the usual sorts of things, but still, it's very well told. And it's just great how the manuscript, you've always got to start right at the beginning, how a manuscript was made. Obviously vellum and all those sort of things. And also lots of the terms, which I must admit I did not realise. All the bifolia, never heard of that one. Latin one there means two leaves. Little did I know. But it goes through all the various manuscripts. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say everything that's in this book, but it's got vast amounts of pages of information about poems. And there's like one here, The Long Charter of Christ. Now, some of them, it's quite nice. It actually has, obviously, the very virtually completely unreadable, well, you can just about make it out, strewn to dry on a tree. And I probably get that completely wrong. Oh, strained to dry on a tree. Okay, could have been something strained to... But obviously, the Latin ones I've no hope in. But in the beginning was the Word, and it's got the Saint Cuthbert Gospel. And that's quite fascinating. Coffin of the Saint Cuthbert. And obviously, they found that there, the Saint Gospel, Cuthbert Gospel, and fascinating stuff. Also, things like here, Margery Kemp. I wonder why I thought it was Margaret. Margery, unusual name, Margery. However, they found it with a ping pong balls, search for a ping pong balls. Amazing discoveries like that. You think, wow. Now, I'm quite certain that no medieval manuscript will turn up when I'm looking for ping pong balls in this house, but maybe something looking around. Maybe there are lots of books that I might discover as well, but certainly nothing that old. But it's still fascinating. You've got here, because of course a lot of these things were lost. People just, they just gone. They sort of tucked away in a cupboard somewhere for 500, 600 years. Makes you wonder about someone. Didn't they ever look in the cupboard for 600 years? I suppose they did, pulled it out and shoved it all back in again. Didn't really look at it. It was like a pile of papers. And also you've got here Thomas Mallory's La Morte d'Arthur. And that was 1934, as it says there. History of Medieval English Literary Study. You've got near disasters and things. You've got obviously all the ones that sort of nearly vanished, ones that sort of, I think, just a whole range. Makes you wonder when you read these things how anything survives. Because, of course, you had the Reformation where lots of stuff was destroyed. Lots of things was sort of put off to Germany, Spain, whatever. And I'm certain quite a lot of material is all over the place, all around the world. That's why it's always possible that these things are discovered somehow, like in, another country. And you think, oh, that's great. Oh, anyway, it goes through a whole range of different things. Of course, I regret that's one exhibition that I did not go and see. And I really, when I was reading it, I thought, that was the October 2018 British Library exhibition of pre-conquest manuscript. I don't know why I didn't go. Weird. I love all that sort of stuff. And then for some weird reason, I always thought always something else to do. And I'd never got around to it. Probably because also I cancelled my British Library membership and I was sort of a bit miffed off at that point for some reason. And I just didn't go. Oh, that was stupid. But anyway, that's life. Queen Emma of Normandy. You've got here loads of like manuscripts there, medieval. And actually, that's another thing. When you look on these things, you quite find out that sometimes these manuscripts are with something else as well. It's not just like, you know, about 3 or 4 other items all stuck in the same sort of manuscript. You think, wow, how odd. And this one here, even in 2008, it says here, a different version of the, and I'm not even going to say it, the encomium. I'm not going to say that. But anyway, whatever. It came to light. But you've also got, I love all the bits where it's got the pictures. And this is a bit like with comic books. When you go into comic books, you've got all the sort of people write all the various things at the side of the panels and things. And also all put their little imagery and things. Obviously, I love that. Look at that. Just so beautiful, isn't it? Just sort of holding on to, just great. And of course, you've got the front cover of there. Just brilliant. Just beautiful. I mean, that is just such a staggering, you know, the earliest intact European book. Staggering. And also, I love all these sort of things as well when you've got the little drawings. Because quite often you've got drawings of like Henry VIII and things looking really pretty odd, actually. Probably in some ways better than some of the drawings that we get, other things of Henry VIII. When you get these very, very tiny little ones, you think, oh, wow. It's like when you go to, I love seeing like tapestries. Not many of those seem to have survived either. And they're always amazing when you look at some of the old ones. You think, wow, just as, that's it, like the Victorian Albert. Really impressive. You've got Thomas Cromwell, of course, all Reformation. Lots of things lost then. Anyway, and you've got other ones, obviously, talking about that as well. Sherborne Missal. What an unusual word, missal. Scribes. It also talks about the scribes. Just really, it's got all about how obviously the time and effort. It, you know, it says here saying about that in a lifetime they might have only done like 20 books. I must admit, probably would to copy out sort of a book would take quite a while. I'm bound to have made about 5 million mistakes. I would have been booted out. I'm certain they would have said, go, you're useless, because I would have just made mistake after mistake. I wouldn't have survived. So, but it's just, I love all this sort of stuff. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love the drawings and also just the typography as well. Just absolutely superb. But I don't think, I would never have the patience for that. But it is fascinating, this one. This is like, say, the scribes and the authors as well. Now, I didn't realise about the authors being, obviously, the word authority. Weird. I know it's really as obvious as anything. You think, oh, that's obvious when someone points it out. You think, yeah, true. And all those sort of things. Weird. Anyway, it's just page after. And also all about the women, obviously, who did all things as well. Of course, a lot of those were lost. They sort of like really had to struggle to get, and even some that sort of did it in secret code. So they actually get their name and everything out so people didn't realise that it was a woman. I mean, that's terrible, isn't it? You just think, really? But I guess that was the way, you know, only men should do it. But anyway, that was the way it worked. Hidden authors. And this is obviously talking about like the women that obviously did all this. It's just quite staggering, probably vast amounts of that did all that work, and all just been sort of lost. Hidden authors, as it says here. And some of it actually is quite, there was one here that was quite amazing, and I'm not even going to say it, but it was quite, you know, you read the language and you think, wow, this was like, I don't know, 13th or 14th century or whatever, some Welsh authoress, and you think, unbelievable that they would write that sort of thing, you know, and probably something that probably nowadays you would get knocked off YouTube for. So but it's just staggeringly brilliant, all these things. You've got Linsfire. When I go to the British Library, I always love looking at that. I love that work. Look, it's just beautiful. You know, staggeringly glorious there. And of course the hymn. I love that. Some of the earliest poetry in English, and it's like tucked down the bottom. You've got it, just a little bit of writing down there. I mean, how wonderful is it? Just great when you see that. And of course, the way they wrote it as well, it's all crammed. You think, how the hell did they ever work? I shouldn't say that, of course. Maybe whatever. However, but it's all crammed in, you know. There was hardly any there was a bit of gap there, but I suppose because, of course, this paper was expensive, that you just didn't do that. The idea of spacing it out, so I guess you knew the word, so you guessed that the next word was going to be this. Must have been very confusing though. There must have been words that made it hard to work out. But you can see that with quite a lot, very crammed in. Very, very, not always. And then you've got some that have got little dots, which I assume is separating the words. Anyway, let's just go to the end. This is, and also, of course, the decline of the manuscript. Obviously, about 15. And it's also quite interesting. I didn't realise with like Henry VIII, when he was sort of, he had obviously both. At that point, he was like manuscripts, and also, of course, you had like the manuscript for the plays at the time. They were doing the rounds, and you saw like Thomas More, the Book of Thomas More, and that sort of survival of that makes you wonder about all the other manuscripts that obviously so many. And it actually talks about that as well. The works that are lost. You know, that sometimes for a certain thing, thousands and thousands of works just gone, destroyed by fire, destroyed by neglect, tons of other reasons as well. People just wanting to destroy and putting them on fire as well, purposely. And then you've got the glossary here, always great. And then you've got a great bibliography at the back, always great. You've got the primary sources, got a long list here of trouble is always with these things, that quite often you look at it and whenever you go and, here's one. Acta Sanctorum Marti Thomas et Joanne Bolando, 6 volumes, Antwerp, 1668. I'm probably not readily available as a primary source. Of course, it's a primary source, but you're not going to be able to just pick that up. I wonder if Penguins brought it out recently as a book set of 6 volumes. Imagine that's going to be a winner read. It's probably good. I don't know. It's quite often when you go and look at you go to libraries and things, you see you think some of the books. The scholars, of course, that's just good. They'll spend forever looking through them. But for the general person, it's a lot of stuff you think, I read that in a million years. 15th century books, the scribes, the printers, the decorators. How odd. Image on the Edge, the margins of medieval art. Now, that's probably quite fascinating. Again, trouble is, look up these books. They're not often particularly readily in print nowadays. And also it's got lots of links, hyperlinks as well, of course, web pages, and you've got notes at the back. I love this book. This is just an absolute joy. It's one that I've been reading it over the Christmas, just picking it up and reading. I haven't read it all the way through, complete, all the way. And that's why probably doing this, you're probably thinking, he's going backwards and forwards. Because it's not, for me anyway, a book that I would sort of sit down and read in order. So there's a lot of sections probably I haven't really gone through, and I'll pick up again during the new year and we'll reread or read the first time. Because I don't think I could read it from start to finish. It's sort of one you dip into, think, oh, that's interesting, and then you read about 30 pages about a particular subject. And this just, also this sort of thing, the common solution to this riddle, the bookworm or book moth, and Latin collections, etc. It's just fascinating. Really, yeah. Wow. Really great book. I totally recommend this. It's not actually too expensive. It's one of these sort of reasonably priced books that you think, would I really be interested in medieval lives and manuscripts and things? Well, I think it's just fascinating. I love this sort of book. I've got a number of other books on similar sort of things, and I just love those sort of things. Tasham books do lots of those sort of medieval Bible sort of things, and they're always just fascinating as well. And other things obviously like that. So that's it. Hidden Hands, a totally recommended, brilliant book. If you're into sort of anything like manuscripts and the makers of manuscripts, I think this is just an absolutely brilliant little book.